Around Mika's live stream, and I am joined by Anne. And Anne, you're not in the bar tonight.
No, I'm not. I'm at home. So I hope my Wi-Fi is strong enough. Yeah. You make it sound like I'm a drinker, Bill. I don't even drink alcohol.
I know, but I just had to throw that in.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah. Okay. I'm in a different environment. Yes, you're quite
Yeah,
right.
what I
In the
mean is
com-
you're not in the local bar where you very
no,
often
I'm
go
in the comfort of
to
my own
use
home. So
the
apart from having the
Spotify.
dog that might be barking in the background, or one of the cats meowing, we shouldn't have too many other interruptions.
So, are you busy, Anne? Are you keeping busy?
Yeah, quite busy actually. Uh, it's difficult to say, to be honest, because I rather think at the minute we're being a little bit, I said from the beginning, disenfranchised. I do feel we're being rather abandoned because there's not too much seemingly being happening from the British government towards us as residents here, as Brits here in Spain.
Yeah.
There's no update on driving licenses, although that was promised ages ago. Although, don't shoot the messenger. Hugh, the British ambassador, obviously he might have been given the information that everything should be okay by the end of July, and he's had to sort of eat humble pie every time he's come back on to make any announcements. And there are no announcements, so we're still waiting on that, and goodness only knows. I would still recommend that people download the theory test. You can do it for free. Start learning, because if push comes to shove and that's what they're going to have to do, that will save them a little bit of time. There's talk that the blue badge, the disabled badges, might be under discussion as well, which would be good. But again,
Um,
there's nothing as yet. But then, the UK is in such turmoil at the moment. I'm not really terribly surprised that things are not happening for us here. Are you?
no, I think we're very low down the list of getting things done, to be honest.
Very low.
Because not that I follow the news very carefully in the UK, but it
Uh,
does seem to be going through a lot of chaos in general.
Yeah, but there's nothing nice coming out of it either. It's just all nasty news, and every program, every news you turn on, it's about the cost of inflation and are you going to heat? Are you going to eat? People that can't, that won't be able to feed themselves during the winter,
Yeah.
potentially the power cuts. It's not very nice, is it?
No.
Hence, I must say, and something I want to get onto today. Recently, I've had more inquiries from Brits that used to live here that
Mm,
since Brexit have gone back to the UK.
right.
And they're now deciding that they can't hack the UK anymore. And I'm not saying there's a lot, but certainly more than I've ever known. And so they're wanting to come back. And these are not pensioners, retired people. These are actually people in business with young families. And they're obviously very concerned about the schooling for their children, that they say is really not good.
Right.
They're confused. They're concerned about the future for the children, so they want to come back here to Spain.
So these are presumably people that were over here but weren't actually registered as residents.
Potentially, yes, or they've not maintained their residency under the rules. If they had a temporary one, which was under 5 years, they were only allowed out for 6 months at a time anyway. Otherwise, they potentially could have lost it.
Right.
So I don't know what their situation is, but they did used to live here, and they now want to come back. And I'm not really surprised. I've made some notes here, to be truthful. What the 17 million who voted for Brexit seem to have voted for is not what they're actually getting.
No.
That they were promised that the NHS would be stronger, class sizes would be smaller, taxes would be lower, food would be cheaper, wages higher, fuel costs would be lower, there'd be increased disposable income. It's quite contradicting everything that's happening now,
Yeah.
to be
Yeah.
honest. If you look at what Liz Truss wants to do, is threatening to do, public spending cuts, smaller welfare state, etc. It's total. I just don't know where it's going to end, to be honest, Bill.
Right.
It's difficult. I
So
honestly do not.
they've gone back to the UK, and if we're talking especially of young families,
Yeah.
um, obviously the non-lucrative visa, if they want to come back to Spain, is likely not to be of any use to them, is it?
No, it wouldn't, because they can't work with that.
Yeah.
Some of these are CEOs, they're directors of their own companies in the UK. So they obviously don't want to give up that. They've got families that they need to be supporting financially. So to say they would be a retired visa wouldn't be suitable, because the
No.
non-lucrative visa, you cannot work. But under the golden visa, which is the one of the other alternatives, you can actually work here, and there's quite a few benefits with it.
Right. So I think probably a lot of people that have heard the term the golden visa, Anne.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk us through, so that Bob down the bar is not informing people about it?
Oh, he'll be on it. You can bet your life he'll be on it. Well, I've made a few points, but it's one of the easier, let's say, visas to get, because there's a lot less paperwork involved. You would get a response from the Spanish consulate that you can be living here in Spain. You can be here in Spain at the time. You don't have to do it through the UK. Within they say within 20 days. So let's say within about a month. Let's add a little bit on.
Right.
And if you do it through a Spanish consulate in Spain, your visa would be for 2 years. If it's through a Spanish consulate in the UK, your visa would be for 1 year. Obviously, you would then renew it. So
Right.
let me read you some of my notes. It gives them the right to work and live here with their spouse and children. And they only need to travel to Spain once a year, so they don't have to be living here permanently.
All right.
And
Okay.
I mean, there are benefits to it. So if they're not here for the 183 days, they're not a fiscal resident as such. So
Right.
they would carry on declaring their income in the UK. They wouldn't be affected by it here. But there are certain requirements for it. And as
Yes.
you know, having €500,000, 500,000 euros invested in property or in government bonds, in not just one property, it can be in several properties. I mean, it could be 5 properties valued at 100,000, is one of the requirements, and it's without a
Right.
mortgage. However, if the property they're investing in is more than 500,000, they can apply for a loan or a mortgage for the remainder of the money after
Right.
the 500,000.
But Anne, maybe I've misremembered or misheard this,
Uh-huh.
but is that 500,000 per person for the visa?
Yeah, in one name, a minimum
One
of
day.
in one name. So if you bought a property and it's in yours and the wife's name, for example, you would be needing to show 1 million. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
But the wife can still piggyback on the rights of the person who has invested that 500,000, being, let's say, the husband and the
Right.
children. And they would have exactly the same rights. So there's no need really to make it in both names.
Okay. So yeah, that was what I had heard. Or if it's a couple,
Uh-huh.
you need to invest 1 million, but it can still be a 500,000 in one person's name, and there
Correct.
is a way of the spouse. I'm not going to say it's the wife, because maybe it's her money and she's investing
Exactly.
it.
Yeah, no, the spouse. Yeah, no,
Um,
exactly. And the
um,
spouse and the children can piggyback. Now they would need the one person investing, apart from the 500,000, they would need to show adequate income to sustain them, that they're not going to become a burden on the state of Spain when they get here, which is the same as for the non-lucrative visa, €28,000 to round it up a little bit, it's 27,000 and something. And to round it up again, 7,000 per person thereafter would be in the spouse and the children that they would
right,
need to show, and that's annually. I've
right,
got it written down here as an exact on a monthly basis somewhere. Hold on, where did I put it? That's €2,316 per month would have to be shown for the main investor, and €579 per month for the spouse and children. Yeah.
right. Okay. So, but there's I thought, and obviously thought wrongly, that the golden visa was similar to the non-lucrative visa, except they would be able to work and whatever. But what you're saying is it doesn't actually require this whole shift over here and not leaving the country and
No. The non-lucrative visa is during the first 5 years, when you have what they call the temporary, as opposed to the permanent tenure, you are only allowed out of the country for 10 months with
yeah,
one block period of 6 months. So if you use your 6 months during the first year, you've only got 4 months left during the remainder of your 5 years. This
right,
this
yeah,
this doesn't apply
to the
in the
right,
golden visa. No.
right.
So they can be away happily working in their UK without a problem. They would just have to come here once a year. That's
Mhm.
the only requirement on that.
Well,
Obviously, they they need health insurance with an authorised Spanish company, and it has to be without any co-payments. So fully comprehensive. If people don't understand that, it's like when you take out an insurance with a car, and you can opt for cheaper premiums by having excess. So you would pay the first few €100, let's say, in the case of an accident. This has to be with no excess whatsoever. It's called
Right.
sin pagos, without any co-payments,
Yeah.
and an authorised Spanish company. I have helped some people actually that were missold, I think I might put it like that, a cheaper premium when they were applying for an ordinary for their TIE, for just a residency,
Yeah.
and they paid a whole year up front, but they opted for the cheaper option. Unfortunately, it did have co-payments, so it wasn't accepted.
Yeah. We've got a comment here from Skia, and I have had this conversation with a number of
Uh-huh.
people actually, that she thinks it's unfair on people who had property before Brexit, as these properties may at current value, at current prices, may well exceed the 500,000, but they can't use that because they bought it pre-Brexit.
Yeah, no, that would be too long ago, and that wouldn't be at the right amount of money. It would have to be valued at the time of purchase, I believe, and it has to show on your deeds.
Right. Okay.
You would need a document to confirm the investment,
Right.
whether it's deeds or investment in bonds or something like that.
Oh,
Obviously, you've got to be over 18 years old. You have to have a clean criminal record, in much the same way as you do for the non-lucrative. You have to have obviously a fully valid passport.
right.
And what else do you need? As I've said, it's initially a 2-year visa that's applied for in Spain if you apply for it here, 1 year if you apply for it through one of the Spanish consulates in the UK. And any documentation that is written in English, such as marriage certificates, birth certificates, bank statements, etc., that you would have to forward, would have to be officially translated by an official
Yeah.
translator here in Spain, and then apostille stamped. So you then have to send it off to get it apostilled, but get the
Yeah.
translation done first.
Right.
It does also need proof, as I've said, of this income. So as well as having your 500,000, you still need to show 28,000 if you're an individual investor in the bank on an
Yeah.
annual basis. Yeah, it's difficult to think that a lot of people have that sort of disposable income, but some do.
Yeah. So do you think, or it appears, Anne, from people that you've been in contact with,
Mhm.
that life in the UK has altered for the worse more than life in Spain has?
Yes, I do think so. And I mean, they're not all. I can't say they were all Remainers or voted Remain. Some of them might have even voted to leave. But as they're saying, it's not actually what they voted for. What they're getting now is really not what they voted for,
Yeah,
and they're really quite miffed by it. I mean, there were 17 million, don't forget, more
sure.
or less, that voted to leave, and they feel they've been sold up the river, so to speak.
Yeah.
And I mean,
Um,
I find it strange because we've now got Liz Truss, who is deciding to apply or impose or threatening to her own ideas. Well, she doesn't have a mandate. She's just filling the boots of Boris Johnson. She has
sure.
to follow his mandate.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, and what is happening now is not what either of the last two general elections have promised. So
Yeah.
I don't see how she can go about doing this, to be truthful, but she is, which
Yeah.
is winding people up, obviously.
Well, Skia's actually made another comment here, and she said, we did look at selling our current home and buying another,
Uh-huh.
maybe around this. But the problem is that the fees between the selling and the buying fees would be over 150,000 euros. And yeah, I
Well,
suppose if there's plusvalia and there's all your notary's
yeah, but
fee,
you usually only allow about 10% on top would cover it.
yeah,
That's that, that's a heck of an investment.
yeah. And I've got a comment from Ron, and I'm not
Uh,
sure who he's referring to, if it's you or me or Liz Truss. Another idiot.
Another idiot. Yeah, okay. Thank you. I didn't make these rules, so I don't think it's me.
No, I
I
don't think it's you either, Anne.
mean, this visa, the golden visa, I believe, has been in existence since 2013, and
Right,
it's always been around for non-EU citizens, for third country nationals, which is what we've become. And a lot of Brits seem to forget that's what we are now. We're just one of another group of non-EU citizens.
Yeah, because I seem to remember several years back, and people talking about Russians buying their residency here, and this is what they were talking about.
Uh,
I've got nothing against Russians, by the way, but it was referred to that there are, or that there were people buying over here, and at one point there seemed to be a lot of Russians buying, particularly in the Marbella area, and this was how they were getting their equivalent of residency, was via the golden visa.
yeah, they were correct. That's
Yeah.
correct. Yeah, I do remember that being said at the time, Bill. That was a few years ago, but yes,
Yeah.
obviously it was post 2013. But yes, and I mean that's how it's worked.
Yeah, I mean,
Unfortunately, like I said,
Ron is just
we've just
sorry,
joined that group.
Ron is just confirming he was referring to Liz Truss.
Okay, thank you, Ron.
Yeah, and Skye
Yeah,
was also saying about the taxes on the sale and on the purchase of houses, and yeah, it is expensive. I mean, even just to change the deeds over from one person's name to another costs quite a lot of money.
it does
We have
cost a lot
a
of money.
friend
Yeah.
who's done that for his daughter,
Mm.
a small house that he had that he didn't use, but he's put it over into her name, and you have to go through almost like a buying and selling process in
Yes,
terms
you
of getting
do.
the deeds changed up and the fees that have to be paid on it. Yeah,
I believe if it's through a bank, I mean, don't quote me on this, but I think it's 1% of the remaining debt on the property is what
right.
you virtually have to base it on, which can be quite a lot, can't it?
Well, it can be, yeah, and
Yeah,
especially if you're talking about properties that may be worth in the region of 500,000 now.
yeah.
You
Plus,
are talking about that.
I mean,
Um,
you'd be lucky to get a studio nowadays for much less than that. To
no,
be
no,
truthful,
I know.
property
Listen,
going up.
Scares also asked another question here. It's about the 180 and 180 and 360 days. Um, uh, do we think that's going to change? And yeah, it's true that Spanish get this if they go to the UK, but not because they're Spanish. It's because
Uh-huh.
of the UK, because the UK has never been part of Schengen. I'm right in saying that,
Oh,
yeah?
exactly. Yeah, but
And
it's not 180 and 360. It's 90 in any 180.
no, but she said, do we think we'll ever get just the 180 days, that
Ah,
they can
okay.
use
Well,
in any way?
who knows? I don't know. I mean, you saying about with the Spanish, if a Spanish person has taken their driving test in the UK and they come to Spain, they cannot just automatically exchange their driving license either. They have to take the test. It's
Right.
not the nationality of the person, it's the nationality of the driving license.
Yeah.
So, I
Yeah.
mean, the same applies to them coming back here to Spain.
I mean, there's been a lot of talk, Anne, about this, 90 and 180 days, and people
Hmm.
saying, I'd like to just have 180 days and 360.
Hmm.
And I am not sure. Some people are adamant Spain can do this. I'm really not very sure because my understanding is this is part of a fairly Europe-wide Schengen agreement.
As I
Uh,
understand it, yes. So health Spain can stand out on its own independently and decide to do that. I would find that
no.
strange.
I mean,
Mm.
I think what has happened in some other countries, I was talking to a fellow radio presenter in France, and what
Mm.
France have done is introduced a number of different types of visas
Hmm.
that made it a lot easier for people to come over to France and settle down and to work. Spain has not made that particularly
No,
easy.
I think Portugal has done that as well, Bill.
Yeah,
It's a lot easier to get a visa to live in Portugal than it is in Spain, as I understand it.
yeah.
Yeah,
So yeah, I don't know about the 90 days and the 180 days that changing, but anyone in a sense from anywhere can go to the UK and stay for 180 days.
they can. Yeah,
That's the way it operates because it's still 180 in a year more or less.
yeah.
But
With a 90-day break in between, you can't just
yeah,
run through 180.
yeah, they've not been subject to the Schengen rules in the UK.
No, exactly,
So
exactly.
they can make their own rules. I'm just not sure that Spain is in a position to change
And
them.
like I
So
said, I don't think they'd be able to go out on a limb and just do it independently. It would have to be
no,
approved by Schengen, and then it would have to apply to all of the other Schengen countries, 26 of them, I think. As
yeah,
Otherwise, I'd be a bit miffed if I was one of those countries that hadn't got it and Spain got it.
Yeah. I mean, maybe the solution would be for Spain to look at some other options. I don't think the digital nomad certificate has actually arrived anywhere yet, has
No,
it?
the digital nomad visa is still only provisionally approved, but apparently, speaking to solicitors and those in the know, they are quite hopeful that within the next 3 months it will be approved,
Right.
which will be good for a lot of people. There's quite a few actually that it will suit, rather than applying for one of these other visas. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, but because there are a lot of people who now work primarily online, and
correct.
in that sense, it doesn't really matter where they're located, really, only that they've got a decent internet connection.
Yeah, no, I mean, and I can understand why Spain is wanting to do it. The same as with the Golden Visa. And obviously, they're looking for investment in Spain, which is good, money for them. The same with the Nomad digital visa. If people are living here, whether they're being paid by a company here, which they wouldn't be because that would be part of the criteria, but they would still be living here and spending here and renting here and everything else. You know,
Sure,
eating out, maybe drinking and whatever else, buying their shopping here. It's all going to boost the economy, isn't it? So
sure, yeah,
I can understand them wanting to do something like that. Yes.
yeah. And you know, maybe looking at a way, because at the moment for people to come over here with a contract, it's so complicated. Even if somebody says, "I'll give you a job,"
Oh,
they have to demonstrate that no Spaniard
they have
already
to
living here.
demonstrate that in the first instance, no first national person, which is a Spanish person, was suitable or had applied for the job. They then have to prove that no EU citizen, a second country national, had applied for or was suitable for the job. They then have to also go to the employment exchange. What do you call it? I forgot what you call it now in English.
The INEM or
Yeah, I forgot what it's called in English. What is it called? Oh,
the benefits office or the job shop or
the job
job
centre, I
center.
suppose
Yeah,
you would say, to see who is on the list. That there's nobody there applying is on the list. Let's say who could apply for the job and be suitable. So there's a lot you've got to you've got to eliminate before you can even think about applying for a non-EU citizen being a Brit. There's
yeah,
a heck of a lot. And then there's requirements on the hours, etc., etc. I mean, we know there's a lot of people work under the radar here. A lot of the bars employ staff, not paying them fully. They'll pay cash in hand for the remainder of the hours, perhaps employ them
yeah,
on a part basis, etc. Because the fees are so expensive. It's
yeah.
so expensive, the taxes for them. I mean, I believe it's 40% for an employer to employ a member of staff on top of what they earn. So
I
I
think
can
easily.
understand why they
Yeah,
do it. It's not right, but I can understand why they're not that committed to wanting to do it.
yeah, yeah,
I mean, it's sad because this summer, I mean, I had quite a few people that were living here, parents, for example, saying, "Oh, Sonny Jim's got himself a job down at the local bar. What did he do about getting a work permit?" Well, you can't.
no,
There is no such thing. And I mean, if the bar risks employing him, well, then they're also going to risk potentially getting a huge fine.
yeah, and you know when it comes to being able to find people, Spain is very good at finding the people they want to find, and you
Exactly.
know. Having work inspectors just dropping in randomly at a time when they
Yeah.
know people are busy and asking for the contracts for everybody
Yeah.
that's actually working in the place at that point.
Yeah.
These things do happen.
They do. They do happen. They do
Yeah.
happen. Exactly. I mean, the same as you get pulled over on a roadblock for no apparent reason,
Mm,
and asked for your documentation. And if you haven't got the right documentation, you potentially can be given a fine that you
yeah.
might have to pay there on the spot sometimes even.
Or the
And just a reminder, please, everybody that is of non-Spanish nationality, you are supposed to carry your residency and your passport with you at all times. Now, you can get them copied and notarized. As long as you're carrying a notarized copy, that's fine. But you can't just photocopy something and say, that's it. That's not good enough. And I know people are getting done for this, apparently.
yeah.
So you
Yeah.
need your ID at all times, and it should be a photo ID. So obviously, it should be your passport, and obviously your
Sure.
driving license if you're driving.
Yeah, I mean, I have to be honest, I don't tend to carry my passport around with me, just because if I lose it, you know,
Well, yeah, it's difficult. Have you got a
it's
notarized
difficult to
copy? It
get it.
doesn't cost that much. Get a
Yeah,
notarized one done, Bill.
yeah. Okay,
Just for the
I
sense
shall
of
take a slap on the hand, and the
yeah.
reason for that, of course, the reason,
Just for the
yeah,
sake of it.
well, the reason for that is that we are obliged actually to carry around something which identifies which is issued by our country of origin. So
Correct.
even if we have the TIE with our photo on it and it's issued by Spain, it's not our country of origin. So we
No.
should technically have a document issued by United Kingdom.
Yeah,
Um,
that's
yeah,
correct. I mean, a lot of people get in their car, they drive off, they don't have any of that, and then they
yeah,
wonder why they've been fined. Well,
yeah. Um, Ron's made another comment really about the 180 days. That if it was in one batch, they
lot.
could use it. That it would be more money for Spain if it was 180 days and not 90 and 180 twice, because a lot of old people would come out from October or November right out till March or April, and
Absolutely. Yeah, I can understand that, especially to avoid the increased cost of living in the UK, the heating charges, etc. I fully understand that. It would be better, but whether they can do it again is what we're saying, another issue.
yeah, absolutely. And as I say, I'm just not sure. I think when people have said Portugal have done it, I think what Portugal have done have made the process easier for people to go there.
They
And I
have.
know that this appears to have happened in Spain as well from a conversation with it's
Uh-huh.
actually a Scottish lady who lives and has a business in the south of Spain.
Uh-huh.
France, sorry, France. I'm saying Spain, France. And she was talking about the visas that are available, and they seem to have, more types of visas to allow
Yeah.
people, for example, families to come over and actually work. So yeah,
Mhm.
maybe that's something Spain will look at. Maybe they won't. I
Yeah,
don't
I
know.
mean, well, we do have some people are not married, but they live together.
Yeah.
If one of the partners has a residency, they can always apply for what's called a pareja de hecho, which is
Mm,
like a common law partnership that you do at the town hall. It's not a marriage. Some people are even thinking about getting married. Good God forbid. I mean, I wouldn't recommend getting married just for the sake of getting a visa to stay in Spain, but some are. But certainly you can get a pareja de hecho. You can also prove a steady relationship, but that's a little bit more difficult. You need like photos from when you first met. You need joint bank accounts, etc., etc. So a pareja de hecho is not difficult, provided
right,
one of the partners has a residency already.
right, right. So it is another option.
Yeah, there are other options, and I mean, yeah, but, it's just the one that's been pushed most, I think, has been the non-lucrative visa, because primarily, I suppose, they think that the Spain is the retirement capital of Europe. Let's put it like that. Maybe that's the type that they think come here. Maybe it is. I don't know. We do
But
certainly have a lot of retired people here.
yeah, sure. But
Understandably.
there's the youngsters like you and me still slogging away out here as well, man.
Yeah. No, but I can understand it because, it's cheaper to live here. I mean, you see some of these pensioners and they're out and about all day. They're out every evening eating or down at the local bar, chatting away with their friends, perhaps just having a bottle of wine or something. They go on excursions. They've got the heat of the daytime to sit outside. They can play golf. It's just a much healthier lifestyle. And
Sure.
and the Spanish Sanidad Pública, the Spanish national health system, I suppose you could call it that, is far superior to that of the UK. So
Yeah.
they're not missing out on anything. And with their S1 that they would have transferred, they don't even have to have private medical insurance. They're just transferring their right to national health treatment from the UK to Spain. Happy
Yeah.
days.
Yeah, absolutely. And it sounds a bit sort of shallow or coming for the weather, but it's not just about the weather. It's what that allows you to do and how it allows you to live your life.
Yeah,
Um,
I mean, I
a-
didn't come
and
into the weather. I hate the hot weather. I'm very much a temperate person. I don't like the hot weather and I don't like the cold weather. I like spring and autumn. But
yeah,
I can understand that it allows you. I mean, it's not dark at 3 o'clock in the afternoon like it is in December in the UK.
sure.
You don't have to have the curtains closed, the central heating on, etc. So it's more cost effective to be here.
Yeah,
Uh, as I say, you can go and sit in the bar with a bottle of wine. I don't suppose you can do that very often in the UK. High days and holidays, maybe. It's not something you could
yeah,
do frequently, I don't think. And
yeah,
and they all meet up. I mean, not to say it's right, but they have their own little British circle of friends. Yeah, okay, lovely. Yeah,
yeah.
I'm not knocking it.
So if anyone is interested and is listening in or picks up this live stream in the
Uh-huh.
Golden Visa, how should they contact you?
Well, they can contact me. They can message me on Google Messenger. They can call me. I can give you my telephone number if you want, or they could contact us on one of the 7 Facebook groups that we have. And we aren't
Okay.
just Brexit in Spain International. It's not just a Facebook group. We are a properly affiliated, legally constituted association, Asociación Española, with a SIF number, a VAT number, so to speak, and we have been since July 2016, so just shortly after the Brexit referendum. So
Okay.
we're not we're not a group that's going to come and go.
No.
Basically, we're not just a Facebook group that's set up, and we have commitments. Hence, some of the authorities prefer to deal with us because they know we are
Sure.
professionals and committed to the cause.
Yeah, I'm just looking up your phone number to put it up on the screen, Anne.
You want me to tell
So
you that?
well, go on.
635
Okay, I'm going to put the double 0034 in case people are phoning from
Yeah,
abroad.
0034 635 692 930.
Okay, I think that's right.
Yeah. Or they can email me if they want, Anne Hernandez 105 at gmail.com. So
Okay,
I'm quite contactable by any means. Or Google Messenger or just send a message via Facebook.
yeah, okay. So there's Anne's number up there. Brexpats in Spain, you can contact her via that page, via Messenger, via private page. Or this is her number up there, 635 692 930. I got it
That's
right, yeah.
correct. Yeah, that's correct. I mean, and if I can't help you personally, obviously we've got sponsors who are from all sorts of different walks of life, professionals, solicitors, insurance companies, doctors, etc., etc.
Yeah.
So I can always look to them for the correct sort of professional guidance.
I think that's the important thing, Anne, isn't it? That you do have a number of professionals that are working
Absolutely.
alongside you. And, even though you're a bit like the Encyclopedia Britannica, um,
Yep.
on Brexit things rather than the Wikipedia. Um,
Yeah.
there are still things that you don't necessarily always want to give people financial advice or legal advice,
No,
but
and
you do have
I
access to people that
no,
can do that.
it's not my forte, Bill, and I wouldn't profess to it being that. And I know so little about taxation, so we've got taxation experts, etc. But yeah, so you don't always contact Anapedia, as I've been known. If you do, then I might refer you to somebody else. But yeah, I would still be
Yeah.
there behind you.
Okay, Anne. I think that's what, or just very finally, if you don't mind,
Uh-huh.
I will. People that keep on asking me, how do I register to vote? How do I register to vote? And we're still waiting on this being
Yeah.
finalized. Um,
Yep.
the actual paper from the Spanish government has been published, and there was always a paragraph in this about voting for the countries with bilateral agreements. And UK has been added into that paragraph. So we do at least appear on this now. But
Yeah.
the last I heard, which was probably about a month ago, because I
Uh-huh.
think we spoke about this in the last live stream, but
We did. Yeah.
it was still waiting to be signed off by the Council of Ministers. So until they put their signature on it, it won't come out in an actual BOE. And
No.
then they have to notify the Institute for National Statistics or the Office for the Electoral Roll. And then they need to notify the councils, this is what you can do. So we are still waiting, but I'm very optimistic that this is going to be done in time for us still to get registered. But at the
Yeah,
moment, for Brits,
they're talking about December, aren't they?
yeah, they are.
I
This is,
don't know how some of the town halls are going to cope, to be truthful. I really
well,
don't. We've talked
I
about
have
this in the
no
past.
idea.
If they put it, I mean, they close at 2. They've already full of appointment, with appointments. There's not that much availability. To think that you've got a whole group of new people that now want to register on the
Yeah,
electoral register, it is going to be difficult. And don't forget, you have to have been on the pad run for 3 years.
sure.
Otherwise, you cannot qualify to go on to the electoral register, the censo electoral.
Just to remind people, if you're an EU citizen, there's no problem. You can register anytime you want
Yeah,
at the town hall. Being on the Padron is not the same as registering on the electoral roll. You have to do that separately.
yeah,
EU citizens, which obviously includes Irish citizens. So,
yeah,
I would say get this, if you want to get onto it, get down there and get this done now and get it out the way.
yeah.
Uh, because come December, there could be 6,000 Brits queuing up there trying to get.
I don't know how many Brits are there now living in Mijas or registered on the Padron?
There are about 9,000, over
Yeah,
9,000, I think.
I
But
thought about 9,000.
some of them are children, so they won't be able to vote. Some of them may not have been here or registered residents for 3 years, so they won't be able to vote. But I'm picking the number 6,000 out my head, basically,
Oh,
just sort of allowing for people who can't, whether they're children
yeah.
or haven't been here long enough. But even 6,000 appointments, I don't see how they're going to do it.
I
Um,
don't. Unless as we said, it's going to be done digitally, which is
well,
quite unfair because not everybody has the technology or the know-how to do that.
this is the thing. I do think that there will be some options. One is by
Huh?
post to the National Institute. The other one will be, I think, via digital certificate. No, by this clave, this digital system clave, which I can't get to work. Uh,
No,
so I think most people will want to do it in person at the town
I
hall.
don't. You say post. You mean pigeon post? Do you mean? You mean
Yeah, yeah.
ordinary post?
If they get this letter from the INE, they can sign it off and send it back. So
Right.
that is possible, I think. But
I hope that it arrives. I don't get any post. My post just my letterbox is always empty. I've given up even looking in it. To be truthful, I don't know where my post goes.
Okay,
But
okay.
post in Spain is renowned to not being the best, but we all know
Well,
that, don't we?
that's good because it means you don't get any bills arriving, Anne.
No, that's it would only be Bill. Yeah, but then I'm not going to get a notification. I'm going to be cut off. So that's a bit of a problem.
And
Yeah.
thank you so much for joining us this
Thank you,
evening. I
Bill.
think, I know we're talking about golden visas, but we've covered a lot of other things as well.
We have, yeah,
And
yeah, and let's hope, fingers crossed, that things get sorted out in the UK with regards to driving licenses ASAP.
yeah. Well, you're going
Because
to be back
there's
with
a
us
lot
in
of
four
people.
weeks. If there's a big announcement, we can always do a quick
Absolutely,
live
we
stream
would have to.
special. But
Because it has affected a lot of people unfairly
yeah,
as well. I mean,
I know.
there are some genuine cases, and I feel desperately sorry for them. I really do.
Yeah, I know. Sorry, I'm just looking at if we got any. Skaze has said thank you for answering her questions.
You're
Sorry, we
welcome.
solutions there. Uh, so, and Ron says quite rightly, you can do what you like if you're rich.
You can. Yeah, this is true. Money talks, doesn't it?
Indeed.
Yeah,
Thank you
yeah.
so much, Anne. Nice
All
to
right then,
see
Bill.
you.
Thank you. Have a nice
You
evening.
and you.
Okay.
Thanks for those
Thank
who've been listening
you.
in live, and we'll be back in 4 weeks with Anne, hopefully, and maybe we'll have some good news. Let's hope so, Anne. Yeah.
Fingers crossed. Yeah.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Bye,
Bye.
everyone. Bye
Bye
now.
bye.